like to call to order a special meeting for the Park and Road Impact Fee Review Board, recognizing that we have all three members present for a quorum. The first matter would be for the board to acknowledge a receipt of correspondence.
Acknowledge it. Service. Yep. Acknowledge. Yeah.
The next item would be old business, in which there are no items. Then under new business, item 6A, we have the appeal for 10814 Creekway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this on? Can you guys? Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Brian Burdick. I'm an attorney with Barnes and Thornburg here in Indianapolis, representing RFPDI today and the various businesses that Graham Rahal owns and will operate at this facility in Creekside. We have two appeals pending you today for the traffic and road impact fee. The first one on the agenda is for what we call Building 2. That is ILP number 2023-760. And we really appreciate the ability to kind of meet with you folks and talk about the uniqueness of this project. And we think it's difficult to find comparables to compare to really understand the traffic flows in and out of these facilities, which are substantially less than what might meet at first blush. And we're ongoing enterprises in lots of places. We have real hard data to sort of support where we are. We understand that you have to start somewhere in calculating these fees, and that we start at the Institute of Transportation Engineers handbook. And so appreciate the opportunity to throw something out there to come in and say, hey, make your case if it's different and how. And that's what we're here to do today. So the development has two buildings to it. In Building 2, we have really four entities that will be there. First will be a future restaurant, which I'll get to in a second. The second is an auto storage club, where members will have ownership interest in the club, and they'll go and maybe get together to watch a race or something like that that's going on, but have a bar, limited food up above. The third is the car storage for those people in the club. That's going to be half of Building 2 here. And then the last is a Piaggio dealership, which is an ongoing enterprise that GRP owns and operates presently. So we have hard foot traffic numbers for you, et cetera, for that. So to dispense with the restaurant piece, I'd ask for a deferral on this till we have something real to kind of look at. The square footage we know, but we don't have an operator yet. We don't have an owner yet for, what we're going to do with that facility. And we think it's going to be unique, some racing theme with the Rahal family, both Graham, who was a present IndyCar driver, as I think folks in here know, but his father will also race, his grandfather raced, and they have quite a collection of things. So I think there's going to be a component to this where they may highlight some pieces that they have in their family collection inside here. And so at the end of the day, we may have fewer places to sit and eat than otherwise might be common in a restaurant of some size with the square footage. And so until we get that nailed down, we know we got to come back in front of you for that anyway when you have the hard numbers. I would just like to ask if we could defer that component until we do have the hard numbers and come back and just lay it out for you. And where the math falls, the math falls. We had this concept in the initial discussion, and with the town, they were very excited about having a restaurant here, just with the needs of the growing community that Zionsville is. And don't need to tell you folks about the difficulty to find a place to eat downtown and park and such and such. So, but it's just not ripe yet. So if there is an ability to do that, I would request that we defer that and come back with real hard data, for that component. The auto storage club is unique. We really don't have anything to compare it to other than like the Silo auction auto club downtown in Indianapolis. This will have, and we submitted data to you that I hope you have in front of you to give you a feel for foot traffic in there. But for the club itself, be limited amount of members, membership only. Probably, 20 people maybe a week to come in and have a drink and maybe look at each other's cars that they store there. It's really just in conjunction with the storage area, which will be for people that own a number of cars that they wouldn't drive maybe in particularly summer or winter or what have you. And it's more than they have that they can store at home. Typically, these are higher end cars. And so it'll be a limited group. I imagine we'll have kind of quarterly, you'd come in to maybe swap your cars out, what you keep at home you're going to drive and what you're going to leave back here otherwise. As it relates to the storage unit itself, the storage unit itself is 50% of the square footage, and then the club will sort of be up above, and you'd have an ability to kind of, you know, go walk around and check out what everybody else has there. Point being, though, as it relates to the club, is it's limited. It's not operating yet. I think Silo has 10 to 20 people, you know, sort of a week that come in. Again, unless maybe there's a race or some event where somebody wants to come up and they watch it together upstairs with limited use. But we would ask for a reduction in that because we don't know what the comps could be other than maybe somebody looks at, and I haven't been privy to it, maybe a country club or some other things. It just doesn't have foot traffic like that. It doesn't have car traffic like that. It's just specialized, unique, and really just in conjunction with somebody who wants to store a bunch of cars there. The last piece there is the Piaggio dealership. The Piaggio dealership is something that's currently up and running in the old Wild Birds Unlimited building today. We have good hard traffic of monthly sales, potential clients. That's the foot traffic you get in monthly, et cetera. Piaggio makes about 4 or 5 different types. Italian company makes 4 or 5 different types of scooters. Vespa would probably be the most, you know, commonly known one. We have, when we submitted this for you folks before the record and those here listening online today, you know, we sell 16 bikes on average a month. Visitors a month, 50. That's people coming in. So this is a very low traffic business. There's internet business related to that. There really aren't motorcycle dealerships in Indiana to kind of have a comp to. We'll deal with that on the Ducati dealership in building 1 as well, but it's unique. And but we have good hard data to support you. Again, I don't know what the calculation was based on to tell you how much foot traffic was imputed for the numbers. But we've submitted to you our hard numbers there. So hopefully there could be an adjustment. My suspicion is with the dollar amount that was suggested, that number is much greater than what our reality of our foot traffic is. I'll say something about the combined fees here, and then I'm happy to answer any questions on building 2, or I could jump into building 1 if you'd like, Mr. Chairman, however you choose to go about that. But they came in a little higher than we thought, 200 and maybe 40,000 roughly, whatever the math was, and might be a little high on that, 220, something like that. And it just wasn't something that we had kind of built into the plan. A little bit unaware of it, understand the ordinance, understand the program about it, all of that. But that's why we're here today, to see if we can get that down to a number that we believe really reflects the foot traffic that we have. So, Mr. Chairman, do you have questions? Would you like to take questions for me on any of this, or would you like me to just dive into building 1? What's your pleasure?
Let's resolve this matter first. Does the town have any comments or questions?
I don't have any at this time. I don't know if Lance does.
If you're seeking any guidance or input, let us know, but there are 2 types of appeals generally. One is the in lieu of, which is seeking credit for work you have or may do in lieu of your fees and seeking credit. The other is this process, which the building has unique, or the development has unique characteristics that may not be accurately reflected in the ITE, and certainly they have laid out cogent arguments. So I think it's just up to this board to determine what is a reasonable number of trips and assess the fee in that way. So happy to answer any specific questions, but I think this is a fairly straightforward and appropriate request of the appellants.
Did the calculation that was used to determine the current fee allocate a portion to the restaurant, a portion to?
I would ask you to turn your head slightly
to the right.
Yeah.
I haven't seen, and so we didn't see, so we haven't seen any, was there a consideration to the use of the space
So,
by location?
yeah, so when we calculated it for all 4 potential uses: the scooter sales, membership club, high turnover restaurant and car storage, and we got our numbers transposed somewhere, but the calculation we came up with was 62,646. If you take out the restaurant, you're down to 7,632. So the restaurant is roughly 88% of that calculation. Is that, I went through those numbers pretty quick.
Yeah, so
but
you've got 591 visitors in your calculation. Does that mean that 88% of that then would be?
519 are attributed to the restaurant.
Okay.
So if we're going to, at this time, eliminate the restaurant, we're only left with 72 trips. And that times the 106 gets you to 7632.
Is there a spreadsheet that you're looking at that we don't have access to?
Yes.
That'd be helpful, I think, to see
For
that
us,
spreadsheet so that,
I would have been happy to present that had I known that this was going to be broken up like this. So, yeah.
If you want to forward that to me, if you have it digitally access to it, I can throw it up on the screen, but
I don't know if I have it.
if you don't,
get
don't
it.
worry about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. You're more than welcome to take a photocopies of it. But
Could we get copies of that as well?
There is a.
Yeah, thank you.
projector available.
oh, that's true. There,
here. We'll make that one too. That's building, one of them's building one, one of them's building two. In case we get to
So,
that.
yeah, so we can
granular.
get to that. When you're talking about the membership club and the car storage, what was your?
You took my data. I can't tell you.
Did you base it off of a auto dealership? Did you base it, that's
So, okay, so I can do this from memory.
Yeah.
The motorcycle or the scooter sales.
scooter sale,
Let's
yeah.
start there. We had to, ITE does not have a land use for that, but New Jersey has a data set that they use to calculate impact fees. And then part of that, they have motorcycle sales.
Okay,
So that was used, that rate was used.
okay,
Membership club, we had to go back to the 9th edition. We're on the 11th edition currently of the IT trip generation manual. We had to go to the 9th to find something comparable. And so we used that to calculate the rate.
Okay.
And the restaurant, what was the other one? Storage,
car
storage.
I think those are the membership club and the car. storage
Yeah,
were-
car storage we did separately, and we did it based on the number of bays and equivalent, made it equivalent to like a storage, like a self-storage,
like a self-storage
Yeah.
unit.
because that was the closest
Mhm.
thing we could come up with. And then those three combined for the 72 trips.
so is there data being presented that counters this then?
I just see square footage in the PL document, which makes it,
I guess if the Piaggio sales is some data, I think they've collected it.
Yeah, I think we've submitted that, right, Audie? That was submitted. There's 16 sales a month. And we estimate the foot traffic to be 50 people a month, sort of in and out. There's some internet component to scooter and motorcycle sales. New Jersey's a bit of a different market than Indiana, I'll say. I mean, I'll discuss that with the Ducati situation, here, but we have hard data on, because we're operating already, so we can kind of tell you what our foot traffic is.
there's an Indian motorcycle, I believe, in Fishers. It's probably,
Oh, is that
Similar.
right? Yeah.
so,
yeah.
it's off 69. Yeah,
That's Harley, isn't it? Harley?
I thought it
Is
was
it
Indian.
Indian?
I thought they had Indian.
I didn't know there was another motorcycle dealership there. Somebody had shared with me, maybe Audie, when we were
I don't-
talking, we didn't
I
think there
don't
was an
believe it's
Indiana.
exclusively Indian.
Yeah, there might be
motorcycles.
other.
I think they have other off-road vehicles.
Okay.
Mhm.
As well.
And just for square footage purposes, I think we submitted this, that the maybe 75, what do I have? 75% of the building is attributable to the club, car storage, and the Piaggio dealership. Only 25% of square footage is attributable to the restaurant.
That's what we're waiting for that.
Just checking. So in your numbers, just so I understand what I'm looking at here, 24-hour trips, that would be your foot traffic
The trip is
per day,
vehicle entering the site and the vehicle leaving the site is 2 trips
per day.
per weekday.
Per weekday.
Sorry, I'm not talking into this.
So I'm sorry I didn't have this ahead of time, but pure per weekday. So 2 trips. So if I go in and go out, that counts for 2.
Correct.
So if this number for car storage says 28, that's 14 people.
Correct.
Okay. I would think, again, I'm not in a position to talk about the restaurants. I understand that square footage or whatever. We'll just have to deal with that when we figure out what that's actually going to look like. But I'd have to extrapolate on the scooter side here, 8 times how many business days we have? 6 per week, call it 24, maybe 26. God, this math's going to get hard for me here.
No, well, I kind of went through that and I thought 26. So you're looking at potentially, according to your numbers, two unique customers or clients per day.
Yeah, you'd have 8 per day, right?
Well,
The scooter sales.
you have 50 divided by 25 days. So that,
Yeah, I'm just trying to back into yours. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to equate them. Yeah, I'm just trying to,
I'm trying to make trips out of your data.
yeah, right. Got it. So you're using 26 business days there. Okay, so you've got trips being, so that's 208 customers. If I understand it right, your 16 per day would be 8 customers. 8 times 26 is,
That also includes employees.
okay.
So you can't just say customers.
Yeah,
If you have
I think
employees, they're coming in and out.
Well, the employees are we kind of added into building 1, or we've committed to 100 employees, up to 100 employees for the development. So we have that sort of in our count up for office for building 1. So that is accounted for within the fee, but we didn't split it out per se. So I wouldn't include employees in this count, but I understand that you might have. So, but
And deliveries as well would be in there, just in the raw data.
that would be
Deliveries.
with our office type stuff. Yeah, that all kind of comes there, your Amazon, what have you, or something like that. But for us, so what did that come out to, guys? I'm sorry, 208. So we know from our data, excuse me, I'll speak into this, from our data that we're 50 people a month. That's 100 trips. Understanding that we kind of looped all of our office stuff into building 1 to account for the employee aspect of that, et cetera. So I think we need to talk about what those calculations look like when we get to building 1. I would ask that we reduce that by half, the 208 to 100. Again, putting a pin in, we're going to deal with the delivery stuff sort of in the office side, which is building 1. Just to reflect the actual data that we presented. On the membership club, 29, so that's 14 trips per day, correct? 14 and a half?
That's 29 trips per day.
But an in and an out is 1. I'm sorry, I'm equating it back to customer because we have
Correct.
customers.
It'd be
You have
14
trips.
people,
So let's
14
call
and a
it
half people.
14.5. Let's just keep, and you use 26 days like that. That's 377. Yeah, ours are monthly. We sort of project. What I'm going to go on right now, 20. You can impute anything to that right now. I think it's fairly minimal, but I mean, I would look for a reduction. I don't think 377 would be an accurate attendance number for that kind of facility. But I would ask that to be reduced. And again, my guess is, our best guess when we looked at modeling this out, is probably a quarter of that number. Appreciating that kind of what you had to do was a shot in the dark too, imputing all this. So I mean, I know these are the smaller end, the restaurant's the big piece of this, but ask for that component piece of whatever the 7632 was left to be a quarter. And then on the storage side, you've got 14 people per day. Now we know that that's quite high. 364 people coming per month. And again, in this business, that is people come and kind of, it's maybe a quarterly thing where they're swapping out for seasons, the cars they might have 364 unique individuals visits per month would be, I think, exceedingly high for this. And what we were imputing to that, I mean, again, I'd ask that to be probably put at a quarter. What's a quarter there, guys? 80, 90 is probably high. I apologize. I just didn't have your imputed information up front. So it's just kind of making this up on the fly here a little bit, trying to do the math. By the way, that's why I became a lawyer. So just to not do the math. Probably 60 visits, guys. Most reasonable. That's a 1/6 of what's imputed there. I don't have a good feeling for the delivery piece, the Amazon, if that's what you're asking. Again, I'd like to talk about that in the office sort of side of it, lump the employees in, but I would say on each of those unique businesses, and again, someday we'll get to the restaurant when we have hard data on that. That seems, those all seem high. So I would ask reductions as I just suggested. And then a deferral on the restaurant. Thanks for sharing that data.
We get a kind of a summary of just,
It's hard for me I can't do the math without having this schedule and then knowing what is the ask and what is the reduction ask. It would be
Yes.
really helpful for us to see the original calculation here. There's so many components. Agreed. To this, and then we're asking for a deferral on the restaurant, which can we defer that? Is that an opportunity to do that in case that doesn't come to fruition? Or are we even able to do that
I believe we have done deferrals on particular pieces.
until the usage gets determined? Yes. Okay. But I think for my purposes, I'd like to see this calculation, the original calc that ties to the 591 visitors, and break it down by the 4 buildings, or the 4 uses, and then see what the proposal is. I would agree with that in the disagreement, and we can make that decision.
I think we submitted our data here, right? So you've at least got, this would be for those Piaggio and the club storages combined.
And that's on square footage though, right? On your proposal?
No, well,
Or page
if you look
2.
back into this, these are actual, the Piaggio, these are actual numbers of our current operation.
Okay.
So we sell 16 bikes here. We believe we have 50 people come in, which would equate to 100 trips. Yeah, that's the thing I'm just trying to do the math on, is your 24-hour trip number there in your third column.
Yep.
Is that's an in and an out. So in the 16, that's one person, so that's 8 people per day. Or these are per month for us.
That's what I'm trying to get to
Yeah.
Are we talking monthly or are we talking
Yeah. So our
24 hours?
Yeah, but where we put in there the client visit pieces, those are based upon the hard numbers that we went back to. The private club storage, we kind of understand our business model, and we've talked to Silo about what they've experienced. So that's where that comes from. We're not in that business yet. But what we'd be saying there is Piaggio, we have 50 visits per month. The private club storage, that's saying 20 visits per month.
So 100 trips, 40 trips. And then
40 trips. That's right. 20 visits is 40. Yes, you got it. And so what you guys have done, I think, is, if I got the math right on that, the storage, if I did that one last, was 364 visits per month, which is 28 divided by 2, 14 times 26 days.
26 days. So in a monthly, you're going to be open 26 days per month.
Well, that's the number I think they use in your calculation. I would say that's
Yeah.
probably generally right. I
Okay.
mean, just call Sundays not being open and, So the 3 you got, so I think the town has 364 on that one. I apologize. I should have wrote this down. On your sales, you have 8 times 26, 208 visits per month. And that would be 8 people times the 26. And on the membership club, we got 14.5 times 26, 377. And we lumped the storage and the private club together as the same people. So in your calculations, if I understand it right, would be 377 plus 364, 741 visits per month. And we've submitted to you, we think 20 visits per month. And then we 100 versus the 208 there for the Piaggio. So
Is there any calculation for employees in any of your information? I
we
mean, I
have the
just-
employees included in building one side for that's where the office is going to be. You know, they're right obviously next to each other. So we've committed to the town, you know, up to 100 employees, which includes all of these businesses. So we don't have that broken out here for particularly building 1 or 2.
I think that would be, I mean, in my opinion, that would be extremely helpful because I understand the reasoning, the way you had broken it down.
Mhm.
But for the purposes of the road impact fee, we treat the 2 buildings as 2 separate entities. And there's not necessarily that crossover between the 2 structures. So.
Okay, but the rate is the same, correct? You wouldn't charge a higher rate on building 1 or building 2. The rate's the same. So for gross dollar purposes, it doesn't make any difference for kind of the policy discussion. Hey, what kind of check you need to cut? I do agree that if you'd like to apportion employees, be more accurate in the record to say, hey, a third of them over here. I don't have that. I don't know, Audie, if you have, referring to Audie Tarpley here for the record with Dillon Construction is also working on the project. We didn't have that broken out by that. No, because we have on the economic development agreement with the city, I think we're up to up to 100. Yeah. We could supplement that, Zach, you know, if that'd be a good thing to do. But I think we kind of looked at it in terms of the gross dollars as we were thinking about it. And the office, you know, is in building 1, but I get it. Somebody's going to be in the Piaggio shop in building 2, but the net dollars here are all the same. So I guess that's, you know, our specific request would be to apply what we know to be the case versus what you guys have imputed there and take the accurate percentage and please apply it across and then defer the restaurant. We'll come back with sort of the hard info when we've got that for you guys.
And do you have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go through the numbers as I see them based on the information we just received. If we're looking at 50 potential clients, I'm going to go by day because that way we have apples to apples here. I'm looking at 26 days. Let's just say it's 2 clients a day. So that's 4 trips. If we have 24 deliveries, that's essentially 1 a day. That's another 2 trips. Delivery comes in, delivery goes out. That's 6 trips for the scooter. The private club and car storage, as I understand it, is combined with 20 potential clients a month. So call it 1 client a day. Times 2 is 2 trips a day. And then the average date deliveries is essentially nothing if it's only 2 over a month. But even if we just call that half or something, we add 1 more trip, we're at 6 plus 3 trips. We're at 9 trips compared to the wherever we were 72 before for those 3 uses.
16 plus 29 plus 29.
Yeah, the 72. It's yeah. Taking out the restaurant, we're at 72. Using this data, we're at, let's call it 9, assuming that employees are somewhere else in the calculation.
So 9 daily trips at the rate would be 954.
Correct.
And you have.
We have,
you have
on the 72, we have a 7632.
Yeah, that's, yep.
So you're at an eighth, something like that, maybe.
Sounds about right too to me. In the just based upon the math, I agree with what you were just saying. And then the restaurant obviously is the bigger nut there anyway, that we'll have to come back when we got to, you know, and I'm sure there's plenty of comparable data to do a restaurant. So we just matter what we think will be the foot traffic on that.
Is the private club and the car storage, is that projections or is that actual data?
Projections based upon discussions with Silo. That's the only one we kind of had to
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
go on. And it comes out of our business plan.
Just curious.
Yeah. Sort of intuitive though on the storage thing. You know, it's people that own 10 cars that want to, where your spouse says, get these out of our property.
So, Matt, could you calculate for us what the impact fee would be, excluding the restaurant?
Yeah, excluding on my numbers on the, up on the board there, excluding the restaurant, the impact fee would be the 7632.
Yeah, so he's got it right here, 72, which is gonna be 16, 29, and 29.
Matt, do you need this back?
No, I can see it. Thank you.
And 06.
Yeah,
Right, so it's 7632 per our numbers compared to 954 off of the numbers that basically were provided here for clients and deliveries.
So that would be $954.
In lieu of the 7632, correct?
and the 9 does not, well, yeah, the 9 is not factoring any employee trips in there.
Right. I mean, you could artificially, if we wanted, I mean, there's just no, because the rate's the same for building 1 and building 2, it's not
Yeah.
net effect. It really isn't
Yeah.
any different to the town.
The
You could say, hey,
employees are gonna be-
30% here or something. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, I'm not opposed to that. If that makes it more consistent for you guys, I
Yeah.
just doesn't. We'll just have to make the other calculation the other side, but
Is there any more discussion from the board?
I mean, is there a question of the trip gen used column that the town is using to calculate their trips? I mean, you got the New Jersey motorcycle sales. And then the 9th edition and then kind of a mini warehouse classification. I mean, it feels like that's fairly close to a storage facility. I'm guessing people aren't going in and out of mini warehouses that frequently either. It's not like it's a daily trip or anything like that.
yeah, it just depends on whether you're a small business person. I've got
Yeah.
clients in my other life, you know, there's some storage guys. I mean, there's people that put stuff in there. You probably never hear from them, you know, and
Yeah.
then there's people that are in and out because that's where they keep their inventory for, you know, small business, you know, salon or.
Yeah, and is the intent of the club is it going to be focused on individuals that are residing closer to here? Is it going to be, I mean,
Could be both. There's some
Yeah.
people, you know, that we'll get into this when we talk about GRP on building
Mhm.
1, but the clientele for GRP is probably 85% not from Indiana. And so, but these are people that come in maybe for the Indianapolis 500 and
500.
stay for the entire month. You know, they're oftentimes folks that are collectors are, you know, retired into this, have a number of cars and they'll get a place here for the whole month and those kind of things. I think it's also people just around town, you know, people that are close, that are car people that enjoy that and, you know, an enthusiast and want to go hang out with other people of similar interests. So there is some of that, but not all.
were there any improvements that were made to the area to the road or that required an investment on you?
Dale or Audie, you may know about that. You want to speak into this for the.
No off-site improvements. We're not making any off-site improvements. We have 2 entryways to the property. We're adding the public sidewalk that goes all the way around the project as part of our drawing. And we are reclaiming a portion of the roof water and reusing that. We've increased some things that Graham had made some commitments during the development process as we were going through the approval process with the city to increase the R factor of the walls. It's like 60 versus a typical, home or business that's in the 30s, 28 or 30.
Okay.
But nothing road
Nothing
or
road-wide,
infrastructure,
no.
Lance, is that
Nothing
nothing
off-site.
nothing need to be done in the area?
There's always something needs to be done.
Correct.
But not to
Nothing
pay for
specific to this,
conversation.
nothing as a
Right,
result of
right.
this. Yeah. Okay.
So to summarize what we're asking to do, or what you're asking for at this point in time, is to reduce the impact fee for the scooter sales, membership club, and car storage from $7,632 to $954, and we would defer the restaurant portion at a later date.
Correct.
Is there any additional discussion from the board? Then I would entertain a motion.
I don't feel like we have a great degree of push either way to say one is necessarily incorrect or one is correct. I think that's the challenge I've got in trying to calculate, is 9 correct or is 72 correct?
I think it's appropriate to allocate employees. I think we're making two separate decisions here. And I think it's appropriate if we're saying X percent of employees are allocated to this facility and those trips need to be taken into account. I think that should be taken into account as we approve the number.
Okay, so you'd like to strip basically the employees out of, or building 2 out of building.
I get the argument that you're just, it's all just allocation, but from our standpoint, we have 2 separate approvals. And I don't think it's appropriate to bundle all the employees into one as opposed to allocating those out.
And my instincts say delivery feels a bit light too. And this is a business. And 1 delivery per day, it feels light to me. It doesn't feel like you're gonna have mail, you're gonna have Amazon trucks, you're gonna have delivery of vehicles.
Deliveries, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
The deliveries, I think, would probably just stop at 1 building, which will be, building 1. So that's where the offices will be dropped off. But it's not like there's service in these kind of things. These things, I'll get into the service side of how we do things on the other. And I'm happy just to apportion something. I think it's a reasonable comment that you're making, sir, about employees. Just put 30% over there. Doesn't really matter. It just, because the math is going to be neutral to us, right? And they have to go somewhere. So I think whatever you kind of fall on is okay with us. The bulk of the employees will be more in building 1 than they will be in this building. So.
Yeah, and whether deliveries, the number of deliveries is appropriate or not. I don't think it's appropriate for either side to, kind of swag it based on what they think is likely appropriate. I think we should typically, we try to rely on empirical data that supports the decisions. And, if we're not offered empirical data to dispute what has already been calculated, then to me, I don't think it's appropriate that we swag it, either us or
No, I think, so to clarify, like for the scooter area, that right now they have 3 employees over there at the facility on Michigan Road, where they're currently open. So, I mean, Matt could do that calculation fairly quickly to take care of the employees. There was no intent of having specific employees in the car storage. They will always come from the other building because they have another role to play that's full-time, where the storage will not have actual full-time employees per se. The deliveries for the scooters are to building 1. That's where they're assembled. That's where any service work is done in the Ducati service area. So it would just be those salespeople that are in the other building. And there's 3 employees, although there's never typically 3 employees there on a daily basis. That's how they cover the weekends, the late hours, early hours, what have you.
Is it safe to assume too that some of these events, these one-time events, they'll also be, I would assume, like contract employees, part-time individuals, because there's a part that feels like there's a planning aspect to these events too. So I'm guessing that you'll have outside contractors providing support. There'll be temporary food workers and things like that, that I would think those events probably would have some impact there too. If there is an intent to have events as part of the membership club, especially in the 500 month of May. So I think we're not even factoring any of those in on the 9. So
I don't know that there'll be events, but I think you'll have more members of the club come during like that kind of time. You know what I mean? So that if you're trying to balance out versus I'm making it up November, when nothing's going on racing wise. And just to your comment, I mean, I think we are presenting empirical data. We have specific hard data about foot traffic in our Piaggio operation. We've talked to Silo. What we have, probably the best we can do there is take from what they have in real life and put it into our business plan, which we have in here. And that's what we reflect in our storage unit. But our data presented to you is hard data, as well as the information that's been shared, which I hope you have in front of you, as well as the percentage square footage of the breakouts of the businesses to the extent that's relative to your discussion.
Staff would also like to point out that these are 2 separate buildings. I think it's a bit disingenuous to, in the long term, look at these buildings as one contiguous building. So I concur that we need to look at the 2 buildings as 2 separate buildings and not have overlap.
That's fine with me. Like I said, if it relates to the employees, I mean, Audie just shared with you, there's 3 employees at Piaggio. Take 3 out of 100, I guess, and impute the trips to it. I think that's fine. Again, it's cost neutral to us.
So then is what you would like to see then basically is a package resubmitted to the board that basically delineates the deliveries and staff between the 2 buildings. And then basically then we would defer the entire thing to the next meeting.
sure.
So now that we have the format, we can make it a little easier for everybody.
Okay, I think that's in everyone's best interest, I believe.
Yeah.
So then do we need a motion to defer this to the next meeting, requesting additional information and clarification?
Yes, and if you set the date and time of the next meeting now, you won't have to republish if you do it in this public meeting. If you don't set a time now, you'll have to republish it.
So specifically,
Mr. Burdick, how quickly can you be ready? And Zach,
I think, look, I think I could be ready pretty quickly here. So hold on.
and Zach, did we have any other times that were mutually available?
So also keep in mind, we do have another appeal that will be coming forward in November. I think I emailed you a week or 2 ago about that, trying to get dates that worked for you. If we want to make those coincide, I would personally like to have at least 15 days in advance to get all the noticing out. And that's not including preparation work for all of that, because we have not received materials yet from this other appellant. So it would be ideally late November would be the best time frame to do that, but obviously I don't have all of your schedules available to me yet.
I mean,
Next Wednesday, look.
for the week of Thanksgiving. Let's see here. That's the 23rd, right? I mean, 22nd, the day before the work, I have a little bit of business travel. Not that I'm the most important person here. 27, 20, that next week's kind of hard for me, but that week of Thanksgiving. That's 4 weeks. Does that give you enough time, Zach, you think?
That would
Or-
be plenty.
Yeah. And I. The 22nd, 20th or 22nd morning of is. I could do 22nd at noon. Morning of the 20th. I could do morning up through noon. I know you guys scheduled this and you know if that's a normal time or not, but
22nd's the day before Thanksgiving.
yeah,
Correct.
maybe your morning or you want to X that one out. Travel. Well, anybody, the morning of the 20th, Monday, the 20th, does that have? I mean,
do the 20th. I can't do the 20th at all. I'm only booked up the entire day. I could do the afternoon on the 20th. I could do noon on the 22nd. I know it's not ideal. It's the day before Thanksgiving, but
the afternoon of the 21st.
I will be in Iowa. That worked for me.
And why not the 15th?
I can't do the 15th in the afternoon. I could in the morning.
You do the morning of the 15th.
That's
Mr.
November
Burdick,
15th.
morning of the 15th.
I'm out. Sorry, I'm out.
not the 17th.
I'm out. I've
I'm
got
out.
business to travel. Can I,
If it doesn't work, I understand because of the holidays. We can just schedule a second meeting in November for that other appellant. We're already gonna have to notice for that meeting no matter what. If there is another date that suits you all earlier, we can obviously have that meeting then.
just to be clear, Zach, I just make sure I understand our marching orders. We're trying to get hard delivery data and employee data apportioned to the two buildings. I think we've come to grips on we've submitted data on the hard data about who comes to GRP when we get to building one or Piaggio. So that's really what our march is, our charge is, right? Come back with some hard data apportioning deliveries and employees to each building. That's all we owe you, correct?
I'd say employees and potential contract employees too. Like,
Okay.
yeah, if you're doing events,
Yeah.
and
Right.
Okay.
maybe a rough
So like the
idea of
club
kind of
kind of, we're going to throw a race party
Club,
type
yeah.
idea. Okay.
how many would you have
Okay.
in any given time on that?
We'll use the format.
Perfect.
Yeah, which will break it out because that's a two per, yeah.
Yeah.
Per day, yeah. Deliveries.
If we anticipate a short meeting.
Yeah, I would think-
22nd, I could do the 22nd. But
I
I'm
would
I'm in
think it would
charge
be
of.
I would think our meeting would be
getting all
pretty
the food
quick.
for Thanksgiving, so that's my day to like prep everything.
Well, it's a question about, I don't know how much work kind of needs to be done on your end, Zach. It seems to me like we're talking about a little bit around the edges of a methodology we've all sort of agreed to. We owe you the hard data. Most of this is done. We might be able to do it on a shorter leash if it works for you. Your other appeal may be different than,
Yeah,
The
so the
need.
other appeal, I think for now, just ignore that. If you all can make a date sooner work that works with the GRP's schedule, go ahead and schedule that and we will just end up having to have 2 meetings in November to deal with the 2 different appeals.
I could do November 6 or 7. If you just wanted to, I mean, we can get this data pretty quickly. We got hard data about what deliveries come in.
I
what-
can't be here the 6th or 7th.
How about
At noon.
I could do the 10th at noon. I could do the 9th.
I got a trip.
Oh, shoot. No, I
I hate
can't.
to,
I can do the 10th.
I got a trip in there, guys.
It should be a quick meeting, I would think.
Yeah.
And if it would help, you could always attend virtually.
There you go.
We could do that. I could do the 22nd. I heard you say you're in charge of prep for Thanksgiving. I get that drill. So if my
You could just turn your camera off and multitask. Okay, so the 22nd in the morning.
22nd
at noon.
Needs to be noon.
Noon.
Will be noon.
I've got a
Yeah.
morning. budget
Zach,
meeting.
does that work? 22nd at 12 o'clock?
I don't
Yeah.
think there should be any conflicts, but let me double check. Think that date should work just fine, as long as the rest of you are okay with it.
Yeah, if we can get the information in advance, do that.
Yeah,
Hopefully
so
we can go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get the
definitely.
calcs
Yeah.
in advance.
We'll get our stuff
Yeah.
to you guys pretty quickly on that.
Okay.
And maybe if we could all work on the calculations, or if you guys,
Yeah.
Matt, or Zach, whoever does all that, takes us by, here's what we think, we can kind of respond. We could be pretty quick, I think, ahead of
the
time.
minute you get us that data, I'll forward it on to all relevant parties.
Will any clarity on the restaurant be determined at that point?
I don't know yet. I don't think, but
Okay.
we'll certainly keep you up to date on that. We're just
Now,
being
I-
realistic about the timing on that. I don't think we're going to be quite ready on that.
I do have one quick question. You will be coming back for a tenant finish permit for that restaurant? Yeah. Okay,
I was gonna say, Zach, you have the opportunity to do that at the benefit.
Mhm.
Because all we're delivering today is a cold hardship.
Mhm.
So
So then do I need a motion?
To reset it at that particular date and time.
I move that we set the meeting for November 22nd at noon.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
So can we talk about building one here? Because I think it might be helpful to dispense with this now that it's be a much more efficient discussion, I think, based upon we understand each other's math and how it's presented. So it's in the record, and then we come back on the 22nd. It can be kind of a lickety split deal. Does that make sense?
Please
Mhm.
proceed.
Yeah. Okay. So on building one, which is ILP number 2023 7-721. That's the larger of the two buildings for us. And the fee that we're appealing is $168,116 as submitted to us. So in the information we shared with you, the uses of the building in building one are the office for these various businesses that are located, the back office for the headquarters, the coffee shop, then GRP, Grammar Hill Performance, GRP Service, Gray Hall Paint Protection, and then the Ducati dealership. So again, I appreciate having these numbers. We can kind of chat. We've submitted hard data on what we have on the ongoing businesses, so you can compare that to what's in here. And I think we can probably make quick judgment on that. And then we'll do the same thing about apportioning employees, deliveries. There's no events in that building because you don't have that club aspect of it, but we'll come back with that information to Zach and you folks ahead of time. So again, the Institute of Transportation engineers data, which you got to start somewhere with, probably doesn't have any real good comps for these kind of businesses. We're very unique in the country, and because it generates substantially less traffic, I think, from where we start here. But let us give you the hard data from these ongoing business enterprises to support that. To the extent it matters on the apportioning of the square footage to this, for the record, the office and coffee shop are 25% of the building. The remaining businesses will be 75. And those are the ones I really don't have on the office will be more about the personnel that we're going to apportion to it. In the coffee shop, I think probably the data that you have seems reasonable, Matt, but we'll just, we'll look at that. We have good hard data on GRP. So GRP as a business is not like an auto dealership that you think of like Andy Moore. We don't have a showroom. We don't have a lot like that. We have few sales a month. 90% of these customers we never see. A lot of it's internet work where somebody is looking for a very unique, oftentimes very expensive car. And Graham and the staff source those cars and do particular work on them there and get them to them. Sales per month, this is hard data, are 12. We typically have maybe a client come visit during the month. Deliveries you see there are 24. So that's what's associated with that. I suspect, and this is a massively unique business compared to what's probably makes up the bulk of this, although Matt can speak to where the bulk of this comes from. But the auto dealership, there's just no comp to us. So I mean, we're definitely asking for a massive reduction there, I guess. But Matt's got the hard numbers behind what was imputed to that. But you got the new car sales, you have 800 in and out. So ours are, we can go through the same math we went through earlier. GRP service. These cars will sit for weeks and months on end. I was talking with somebody this past week and who's had a car there for 2 years because they have specialty parts that they'll have to wait on from Italy or Germany or some type of place. And so these are folks that typically own lots and lots of cars. They're very high-end specialty cars, often very unique. They'll maybe be only 200 or 300, kind of in the world. And so these are fabricated pieces at times. And so this is not your typical auto shop where I've got my car sitting over there and somebody's, changing the oil and doing whatever every day. This is somebody sits and stays for a while, car stays for a while. And that's very unique. I suspect that's probably quite unique also, Matt, to what you could pull off of ITE. And again, there's just not really a lot of comps to something like this. And GRP service sort of runs along the line of GRP sales. It's kind of the same customer. But for the hard data for people here on the participating via Zoom today, 15 sort of client, I guess, or transactions per month, unique potential clients. We have 40 people come visit per month. Average deliveries, see, that's for 69, Mac. You're kind of thinking it's a good question you had earlier. I mean, you got parts coming in. It's a little bit different. So, but what's unique about this and the dealership is we don't store compared to like an auto dealer too. A traditional auto dealer has like a retail service part area. They'll sell parts out of there. We don't have any of that. This is just for some specialty thing when you're getting worked on. We source it, find it, and sort of make the repair there. So we have no retail sales at all related to a part you would buy for your car and walk out with. But again, we can extrapolate those numbers based upon the math that we did. And I think we probably will do that here in quick order here shortly. Ducati. Let's talk about the Ducati dealership. It's interesting, New Jersey, where they went on, in New Jersey is a little more of a bike area, it'd be like California. California will sell a lot more Ducatis than Indiana. We've found out. We've got good hard sales at Ducati dealership. We're the only one around. It's a specialty bike for people that like the look and the feel of a Ducati. And sales 16 a month. These are hard numbers again, 50 clients visits per month. There is a little bit of an inside showroom. So you do get a little foot traffic, kind of like you would the Piaggio side. Somebody's interested, they do come in and look around. You see the average deliveries at 10. And so there's some level of foot traffic. Again, not sure on the motorcycle sales, how that compares in here. But we've got good hard data to base it on. The Ducati service side, you see there is some work as part of the Ducati shop. That also is the imputed numbers for Piaggio. Remember, we mentioned Audi came up here and shared that we do the Piaggio work in the Ducati shop, in the back there and floats between 1 and 2. So that's where both those reside. 42 transactions a month on average, 64 individuals coming in per month. Foot traffic, average deliveries of 20 tied to the service business for those folks. RPP, Ray Hall paint protection. Another interesting thing here. It's not really an off the street client. Typically, this is a Tom Wood or somebody who's sold a car and they just delivered over at one of the guys that works for them, bring it by, or they bring a couple by, and then they do the necessary work to provide the detailing and then the paint protection, ceramic, whatever it is that they've purchased to have go on the car there. It's not some place that typically Brian drives his car in and asks for that to be done. 35 sales a month, 20 sort of Brian's walking in that you see there per month. Really no deliveries, kind of like that. It's tied up in the monthly sales number more than is anything else because we have the material there. So you get the average number of days to repair. And then RFPDI, that's the office. So I think we're going to impute, we know from our development group, committed to 100 employees throughout building 1 and 2. We owe you that data coming back, and we'll portion those days appropriately. So speed dating there to get that into the record for everybody online. Don't know if you want to have some discussion about it and then try to calculate that back against this, or Matt, if that's something we could just do with you and Audie offline and then get the information to you folks using the same methodology we just went through for building 2. Just happy to do either one. Don't want to short shrift it. Our I'm sorry, our request too, I probably let you know what our request is, would be to, reduce these to the levels that reflect the actual foot traffic, which we can provide. We've provided the empirical data on, relative to the assumptions that were utilized to do the initial, provide the initial fee.
So I've got a couple questions. On page where you break out GRP sales, GRP service, Ducati sales, Ducati services. And you may have stated this and I didn't hear it, so I apologize, but the numbers that you used to populate these different lines, those came from, or are you just
Actual data, and these are
Actual data.
ongoing businesses that are operating today. So these are actual numbers. We'll look back over, I don't know the exact period of time to look back over the last year or 2 years, but that is,
where
that-
do you state that in writing?
we can provide it. I don't know that it does here, but we can,
Okay.
but but we can get it on their letterhead too, or whatever. This obviously comes from us.
This is important data.
Yeah, yeah.
So the fact that it's noted here is wonderful, but I'd like to understand where this data actually comes from.
Why don't we take this data, Audie, and get, we can get a letter from Pam, that's the CFO, to, on letterhead there that maybe certifies this was the methodology last 12 months or whatever it is, and
Sure.
submit
And
that.
then my
to you.
second question is, both in building 1 and building 2, or I'm building 1 now, but on the second page of your letter that kind of lays everything out, you list the different uses or areas and the square footage associated with those areas, and then the percentage that those areas represent for the project. Are those percentages then used to calculate the impact?
Not for us. We weren't privy to, kind of tried to get the action as to were you guys presented with? What was the math on how you did it? So it's a little bit of a shot in the dark to over supply information to you. This has been massively helpful to see this and also have the conversation about understanding its unique visits. These percentages are purely just percentage of square foot of the building. So it sounds to me like it's probably not really particularly relevant to what it is you guys figure here.
And the reason I ask is that is when I calculate those square footages and those percentages, my math is different than your math.
Mine was too.
So,
But it doesn't.
but if it's not, if it's not relevant, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not sure it is. I mean,
Okay.
obviously just trying to kind of,
If it's not relevant, it doesn't matter.
it seems to me that the page that you're asking for sort of something on letterhead from those folks certifying the actuals is probably the most relevant information. Plus the apportionment of employees and all that.
Sales will help drive clients and customers.
Yeah.
That'll be the beneficial part for us.
Yeah.
And I think, you previously pointed out that the discrepancy on the percentages is also exists in building 2. So if it's going to stay in the documentation.
Yeah.
Then it probably needs to be.
Should be accurate, yeah.
We'll get, we'll,
I'm sure what I did in just on the top area.
Oh, you're the guy that did it?
And I wasn't gonna rat you out here, but see, my name's not on the top of this map, so yeah. Well, I appreciate the discussion. I mean, from our, massively helpful to understand where you're coming from and to see what you guys have done here. I think this becomes a much more easier discussion with empirical data versus what was assumed for this, which is you got to start somewhere, and we owe you a few deliverables back on this. We kind of have actual data to discuss, and appreciate the openness and willingness to hear from us today and try to understand what this unique project's all about. We're excited about it.
It's a wonderful project. We're very thankful that it's come to Zionsville.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So do we need a separate motion on this?
I think so, yes.
I'll make a motion to defer till the November 22nd meeting as well.
At noon.
At noon. Yes.
Is there a second?
So a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Hey, Matt, can I have these? Do you have copy? Okay, go ahead. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the time.
The next item on our agenda is item 6C, which is 245 South Second Street, ILP 2023-842.
Good afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity to address the board. My name is Mark Peters, architect. I'm working with two ladies, Terry and Kim, who are beauticians working at other salons. Their proposed venture is that to have acquired a lease on 1,100 square feet of existing business space in the Westsold building. CPA firm Dale Kennedy vacated it. We have taken out a wall, added a couple sinks, upgraded the electrical. We have state plan release. We have Zionsville building permit, and we've petitioned to have an appeal on the $4,900 road impact fee. Today, I may have on Zoom Carrie Solomon, one of the owners, and or Kim Doherty. I don't know if they're online, but I'll just kind of continue and explain what our appeal is. With our appeal letter, once we got it, I looked back at what I'm putting out there is our request for your consideration as under the ordinance that allows a like business or like intensity not to be subject to an increase of little or some impact on their business access. We, in our appeal packet, do have a letter from Dale Kennedy explaining they had 4 full-time employees, 2 part-time, and we had this many visits and this and that. When Kim and Carrie just gave me, or Kim did just yesterday, kind of a 1 month or 6 month synopsis of her workload part-time. And what these ladies are doing is, I mean, this is not their primary income, but a supplemental income. Part-time, 2 ladies who want to bring a salon to Zionsville, and they have records of their current workload, their appointments. They could share with you to show you that this is not, this is not a Great Clips or a business that has that huge of a traffic impact. And I'll just maybe again ask your consideration of these two ladies who are trying to do a small business startup in a vacant space, same size, mostly the same footprint, business use, west side of the Wessel building, separate door access. Jim Knighton is the building facility owner's rep. I've submitted this to him. He might, I don't know if he has comments. My neighbor additionally is Angela Upchurch. Had I asked her from the chamber, do you have any suggestions on how to help these two ladies get off the ground and try to get some consideration of this additional fee? So Angela did, with the help of Mike Hannon here this morning, is hoping you'll give us good consideration in this small startup business. So I'd offer that to the board for consideration and questions. And Carrie, if you're online, would you like to offer anything? She's not. Okay. Kim, if you're there, I know you said you've got a couple things going, but go ahead if you'd like to offer any comments here.
Yeah, hello. I don't believe I have any comments other than just verifying what you've said about our workload, especially compared to what was proposed,
Are there
which
any
I believe was.
questions from the board?
So is there a specific ask?
Yeah, what is the request specifically?
To defer the $4,900. I mean, it's a business to business use. They had 4 full-time employees, 2 part-time clients during the year, more so tax season. These 2 ladies are part-time. They're starting up their own salon. They don't have the in and out foot traffic that Great Clips may have. And so if there's any reluctance to do that, could we even, wait 6 months and see what the actual traffic is before we would impose a fee that is a hardship on 2 ladies trying to get off the ground with a little business in the town of Zionsville.
So the request that's in front of us is to waive the fee in its entirety.
Yeah, and I mean, in consideration of the ordinance that a like business use and intensity, I'm trying to think that the CPA firm and this business is so much similar, and I can't prove that, but in a few months we might know. But again, to impose that right now, again, on 2 ladies trying to start up a business, it's difficult.
Mr. Brown, do you have any thoughts on the intensity of the 2 different uses?
Yeah, I can kind of step through how we calculated the resulting 47 trips, which yielded the 49.82 in impact fees. So hair salons are something that we've dealt with more and more. ITE has little to no data on hair salons, unfortunately. Hopefully, as we get more of these, we can put some of this data together so we can build that database. But calculations in other communities, and to stay somewhat consistent, our methodology has always been basically there's a little more to it, but essentially however many employees, in this case, it would be 4. And assuming that there would be basically 1 client every hour and 20 minutes. So depending on the operating hours, if somebody was a full-time employee, but, and then including a little bit of the deliveries, but the equation that we developed to make it the easiest calculation is basically the number of employees times the operating hours times 1.76.
How many operating hours did you
In
factor
this case, it was stated as 9. So
per week?
4 per day.
Oh, per day. And how many days a week?
In this case, it didn't matter if the average weekday was doing 9.
And then what was the last part of your calc? You said 4 times 9 times.
1.76.
Okay, why is the 1?
That factors in deliveries,
Oh.
and it factors in it, and it factors it
Okay.
inherently kind of takes that 1 minute or 1 hour 20.
Okay.
It's a way to get it to an equation that deals with terms that we usually get from applicants, I guess.
Mhm.
So did your calculation then assume a full-time operating business?
Correct.
And you noted that this was part-time for these gals?
Yeah, it's part-time, and Kim says we don't get deliveries. I do home delivery and visit brick and mortar supply stores. And again, these have spouses who work full-time, so they have children. And so this is just by appointment. So it's, hair color and cut and yeah, they may do 4 or 5 a day. I mean, but it's not a 9-hour, maybe, somebody may be there, but not all 4 of them or all 2 of them. And they're starting out with 2. So they don't know that, in fact, next month they're going to be up to 4. This may be, this is their long range plan, but right now the 2 of them are going in and gonna make a run at it.
But it is a full-time job for the 2 employees.
No, it's part-time. I mean, they'll work 6 days a week, but maybe a few hours Monday for appointments. So, they don't have, it's not like a Great Clips where there's people waiting in chairs all the time. You call for an appointment, and if, so
Hi,
it's.
can you hear me?
Hello, Kim. Hi.
Yes.
Mark Peters
Hi.
here.
Thank you so much. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Great.
you been-
So, yes, I'm here. So just to kind of work off of what Mark has been saying, this is, Carrie and I work different hours. We do have 4 chairs planned. However, it's really just the 2 of us. So it's the 2 employees working. And on average, for the past 6 months, Carrie sees 4 clients a day and I see 5 clients a day. So our work days do fluctuate. Mark is correct. Neither of us take deliveries for the spaces that we're at now in our workspace, and we don't plan on that changing. So it really just does come down to our booked clientele, as well as Carrie and myself coming in and out of the salon. So that being said, it's roughly about 22 trips per day, which varies greatly from the suggested 47 trips. I agree, it's got to be very difficult to judge and gauge what you're putting a salon in a box, because it greatly depends on the size of the salon, how many employees, whether walk-ins are taken. It's got to be really difficult. We, however, have full books. We do not advertise walk-in services, so we really don't plan on having much more of a workload than what we're doing now on a regular basis. I actually already work in Zionsville, so this would just be me moving my facilities. Carrie works in West Carmel. So she would be new to bringing her business to town. So hopefully that information kind of helps concrete a decision on whether or not the numbers that have been brought up versus what we've, come to look at, especially with in talks with Dale Kennedy, and even though they're different businesses, sounds like the flow is very even keel to what he works with, or at least he did in the space before his lease was up.
Now, I don't mean to interject, but quick question on that. So you do have 4 chairs and have of the intention of potentially expanding down the road and having a total of 4 employees.
Not
Would that-
necessarily. Having 4 chairs allows us waiting area space, or the ability to take those same amount of clients and shortening our workday, but not adding to. That's not the intent.
So you put a person in a chair for a tent and let it sit for half hour, and you can leave her there, go to another chair. And instead of have her go sit in the waiting room kind of situation.
Did you say that your typical workload is 4 to 5 clients per day?
Yeah, so I averaged in the last 6 months 5 clients a day. Carrie was a little less.
A little late. Okay. So roughly 4.5. And then on a part-time basis, what would be kind of a part-time individual, maybe 2 to 3 per day?
Carrie works 3 to 4 days a week. So just averaging the days that she's in the salon, that total came to 4 clients a day. And that fluctuates throughout her week. I actually don't put myself on a work hourly schedule. Every day in the salon is a little different for me, depending on how long I'm there. But yeah, my average was about 5 clients a day, or was 5 clients a day.
And what about on your part-time, your 2 potential individuals? They obviously wouldn't have the same workload as what?
No, it is just Carrie and I.
Yeah. Right now.
Are you actively looking for?
I don't think.
No, we are not.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So now it's
It's
we're talking just two individuals now.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I misunderstood.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's what
before we move too far and get to into these numbers. So going back to our original calculation, which was 63 trips, because nobody's going to see that number anywhere. There was a credit for the existing general office, the 1,100 square feet of 16 trips, and that's where the resulting 47 came from. So
Okay.
keep that in mind, because if you adjust trips based on her data, you're still going to have to give that credit, those 16 trip
for
credit.
the existing.
Correct.
Okay. And the 16 was from the existing business?
That was
It
from the
already-
IT trip generation manual and general office. So
Okay.
boiling down the information she provided, combined with ours, we would start at 63 trips based on her data of, let's say, 4.5 clients per employee. That's 9 clients total times 2, and that's 18. And then they have to come to and from work. So assuming they just come in, work, and then leave, then that's 4. So that's 22 trips.
Mhm.
And then you take off the 16 from that. You could argue that in part-time, you might make more than 2 trips to the office because you might go out, get lunch, come back. Those are always arguments that we hear, but to make it simple, it would be 22 trips minus the 16 or 6.
And your 16 was based off the IT.
Correct.
Any additional comments? Questions?
sounds to me like our decision is, do we think that the businesses are similar enough in terms of impact that no fee would apply? Or do we accept the proposition that the intensity of their use is less than what has been calculated? And so that would be factored in. Or we just leave it the same and
I think the 63 is based off of what you said. That's based off a hair salon, right? Or
That's
is that-
based on our assumptions
Your-
on
Okay.
four full-time employees,
For
operating hours.
okay.
it's like splitting hairs.
It is.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, to take our equation that we've kind of assumed. If we plugged in 2 full-time employees in lieu of the 4, we would be at 32 trips compared to the 22 that was quoted. So through our,
32 minus 16 then.
correct.
for the existing.
So yeah, through our equation, we're assuming basically 6 clients a day. And their data is saying it's about 4.5.
I would propose that we split the difference for lack of any hard data to suggest anything else. Again, I think we could leave it the same. We could say there's no fee that applies because the businesses are, or we can find somewhere in between.
I struggle to say that a hair salon has the same intensity of traffic as a CPA office.
I could buy into that.
Yeah, because we use in my private life, we use a CPA firm to do all of our tax work, and I've been there exactly 0 times.
Yeah.
So you're talking about splitting the difference. You're saying 63 versus 32 and splitting the difference on those 2. Is that what you're thinking?
That's what I'm thinking.
32 or 22. 22 is her data.
22 is her data. 32 would be his revised number
Off of 2 employees,
off of
not
2
4.
employees.
Okay.
So we've got those 3 numbers. So we've got
So you're looking
22
at-
from the petitioner, 32 from the revised calculation.
So 27 would be the resulting, if we split it. Minus the 16 credit. So
27 minus 16, 11 times
1106.
106 would be 1166.
Yep.
I think that's reasonable.
So a quick question, what would happen if they acquire 2 additional full-time employees or the 2 ladies then become full-time? Are they going to come back before this board to pay the difference or?
There would be no need generally.
So any difference that credit that you guys are giving would be null if they acquire additional employees?
That's generally correct. Yeah, there would be no need that would trigger a recalculation unless there was a certain stipulation put on that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's, what, under the current use, what the potential could be versus what they're saying that it is going to be.
Yeah. Small business is very unpredictable.
It's going to have 4 chairs. So
So if it was
Plan.
my business, I would want 4 full-time employees in there.
I would too. And then I'd want to expand.
Or at least a part-time.
Yeah. So I think that's really for us, I think that is the factor is whether or not, if you had 4 chairs, would you try to fill those 4 chairs and maximize your business? Or would you be content with,
Using 2 for gals
Using-
to sit in while they're,
yes,
I would be of the belief that if you put 4 chairs in, you intend to fill 4 chairs.
I would agree.
Otherwise, you wouldn't put in 4 chairs.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Thank you so much. If I can add in, I see where you're going, and it does, it's an interesting thought for the future. However, I just want to add, Carrie and I have been leasing a small suite space each of our own. This venture is really more just to create a quiet atmosphere. It's a big jump to take on employees versus manning a business of your own, with just having control over your own booking. I'm not quite sure the headspace, especially right now, interests us to become of that capacity, just because, we're hairstylists. That is really the intent, is just to have a space of our own. So keep that in mind. I'm not quite sure I can say that that's really our business plan, is to create a huge, working salon, or try and be a competitive nature in our industry. It just adds a lot to a small business plate, is the way I see it.
Thank you. I think too that we have looked at projects in the past, and I believe it was this board looked at one that was on 106th Street that was office space, but was also going to have a kind of an Iron Man fitness thing with it. And the owner of the building was applying for some petition for some relief on the impact fee, because they said that they would only have 3 employees or so in that particular space. Although it is, and I believe that what we determined in that case, that it was office space, and if they vacated, they would fill it up. And in my estimation, I think we're looking at something very similar, where you have to look at what the use of the space is going to be, and not what they tell us their business plan is, but what impacts it could have. Because I believe that's the way the impact fee is calculated.
Yeah, it's generally maximum capacity.
so we're seeing the fee is driven more by the design of the space as opposed to the projected use or the projected intensity of the use.
I believe a deviation from the intensity of the use, right, is a factor that can be appealed. I'm just saying that if it was my business, I would maximize. I'm paying rent for the space. I would maximize the use of it. And I think the point is well taken, that if there are 4 chairs there, my intent would be to employ 4 people to occupy those 4 chairs.
So how does that impact your?
I would, me personally, I am leaning towards upholding the impact fee as proposed by the town.
My view is it's
maybe there's a medium point between either the 4 full-times or a part-time. As well, 4 is the 63 minus 16, which would be your 47. 2 is the 32 minus 16. And then is there a reasonable point to say if there is some part-time individuals, even not a full-time individuals, there's maybe some relief that can be given in the medium between the two? What that number is, I don't. It's easy to calculate the midpoint, but
if you plan on making a motion, you can make it for a dollar amount.
Mhm.
So that, yes, if you know where the midpoint is, you can just
Mhm.
say that we're revising the fee to X number of dollars.
calculated at 40 let's just say there's 3 employees, 2 fulls and potentially 2 part-time. That would equal 48 minus the 16 credit equals 32 trips. And at 106, that's 3,392. Is that your calculation?
Yeah, I mean, I did it a little differently. And I came up with the exact same amount.
Okay.
Well, so yes, if you make a motion, please make it for the amount and not the
Okay.
methodology that got you there.
Okay.
It's here. I have to do that.
He has to do the calculation.
Any additional comments
Any
from the
thoughts
board?
or questions?
Down here. Then I would entertain a motion.
I'm gonna make a motion that we give some relief and set the impact fee at 3,392.
Second.
All
Could
in
I-
favor, say
could-
aye.
Could you repeat that? I can't quite hear what
Oh, I said second.
going to, the emotion is to,
My motion was to reduce the road impact fee from $4,982 to $3,392.
okay, and that is then based on 2 employees
In 1 part-time.
and 1 part-time.
Essentially 1, if you're gonna have 2 part-times, it almost equates to a 1 full-time employee.
Okay. And then the credit we're getting, I mean, the CPA firm had 4 full-time employees and 2 part-time. And they had weekly visits, and then tax time, they had up to 500 clients. You know, and so you're saying our salon traffic is going to be $3,000 more impact on the road than the former CPA firm. 2 part-time ladies doing this with families. This is not a business where they're trying to sustain.
I think there probably is the disjunction. It is a business. It is commercial property that has impacts to the road system. And basically, we have an ordinance that assesses those impacts. And we try to do it fairly and uniformly. Kind of across the board.
Okay.
So
And if I remember, you've got the credit in there too, right? You're crediting
I have the credit on the, yeah,
of the 16.
for the IT trip
Mhm.
generation data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you second?
Yes, a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion passes 2-1. That concludes our business, unless there is something else to come before the board. Then we are adjourned.